to leave you, and I'll yield back a little bit of my time, a direct quote from Joseph Goebbels. It is the absolute right of the state to supervise the formation of public opinion, and I think that may be what we're discussing here, and yield back.
Gentleman yields back. With that, the representative from Texas, Ms. Johnson, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I want to respond to what my colleague from Texas just said. When you're quoting Joseph Goebbels about the role of state in the public debate, we have a big problem.
Yep. Okay. That was Congressman Keith Self quoting the Yahtzee arch propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. That's where we're at. Just wanted to kick off this social commentary episode with a moment of Zen. And I told y'all the new format would be one geopolitical episode, one social commentary episode, and one possible breaking news episode every week. This is the social commentary one, and it is about making politics your entire personality in the face of fascism. And to that end, we are joined by Davidson Boswell, activist and stand-up comedian, coming to us from New York City. We actually we met at a breakthrough news panel in Manhattan last year, and I've been wanting to make this happen because I love your commentary. You also rant into your phone, while walking down the street. So solidarity for the old walk and talk West-wing Aaron Srokin screenwriting technique. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, man. I think the problem with right-wing politicians taking their talking points from Twitter X, you know what I mean, is that you can frame things as like high-minded political principles and not read the subtext, which is that the chief propaganda minister for Hitler wrote it. You know what I mean? So I think they're just peeling that, running to the state house floor and saying it without even a second thought.
Yeah, what? It's just a good saying, dude. Like
exactly. Like there's no filter at all. Like there was this great thing I saw with Elon Musk being like, I'm not left wing or right wing, but this is a good point. And he's replying to a guy named Super Hitler 1488. You know what I mean? It's just like, there is no satire anymore. It's just outright retweeting Nazis.
Yeah. And do you, I feel like I shouldn't be generous with it, but do you think they don't know that they're Nazis? Do you think he doesn't know who Joseph Goebbels was?
I would be willing to give him that, based on just like how stupid I know that these, especially state legislature politicians are, right? They are just very like telegenic, pliant human beings that are willing to do whatever, I don't know, the Cato Institute wrote for them to say. Right. So I don't know if it would be crazy to me though, if no one flagged that before he said it, right? Somebody on his staff would have had to been like, this is Nazi propaganda. And he would be like, well, that polls well. So I'm going to let it fly.
I mean, it kind of does, especially here in Texas, right? My home state. There's no bigger shit show than the Texas legislature. So that just was a great example of what we're cooking down south. Right. We're not nearly as bad as Florida, with their new push to repeal child labor laws, which we're going to talk about later on. So, real quick, guys, before we get into the episode, Colonial Outcasts is on Patreon. If you want exclusive content, we're dropping an interview early this week that's not dropping it on Mint Press until next Monday. Also a live Q&A tomorrow, and our weekly comedic episode, Fuck Around Fridays, which we look at memes, do some light commentary, and try to take a break from the cosmic horrors of the known universe. So check us out there. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, can you give us a 5-star rating? We need to break 1,000 reviews to get into the news category. So if you don't want to do that, either option, we're just glad you're here. Thanks so much. And then I'm going to be linking Davidson's Substack and his socials in the description down below at the end of the episode. So anyways, just to introduce the audience to you, I just wanted to play, and this is the main theme and thrust of the entire episode, one of your walk and talk rant videos. So you're just going to have to watch yourself here for a minute.
Yeah.
It's so awkward.
People accuse you of making politics your entire personality. I think it's time to retort with, the fascist takeover of the United States is fully complete. What should my personality be? We've been warning about fascism now for, I don't know, 10 years or something, and it's fully here. Legal residents of the United States are being abducted off of the street. What else is there to talk about? And they're not being abducted for violence. They're not being abducted for malice or anything like that. They're being abducted for their speech. What makes America greater than our ability to criticize it? It is the greatest thing about this country. It's what pushes us forward. And they're taking that away. And it affects everything. How are you supposed to have personal ambitions, especially in the entertainment industry, stand-up comedy, acting, screenwriting, anything like that, if you cannot criticize the government? If you have to constantly watch what you say for fear of people wearing hoodies, no badges, jumping out of vans and shoving you into them. This is the existential threat of our time. Of course, it's my entire personality. This has to be fought against, right? People think the Democratic Party are going to be able to compromise with this. You can't shake hands with a snake, right? People have to wake up. This is our last possible shot at this. And it has to be legal residents that do it, right? It has to be people with citizenship. Because once they start taking citizens, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
I always picture somebody standing like across the street looking at me doing that, being like, what is that guy doing? You know, but it's the most effective way to get my message out because there's no barrier to entry. I'm just like, this is on my mind. I want to say it right now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's how I got introduced to the public sphere. By ranting into a phone too, with like short videos with condensed messages. And you know what? It's more than any other establishment journalist is doing right now. So
exactly. Yeah. I'm like, there's not any layers of like approval you have to go through. You can just be like, here it is. But yeah, I think people, this is representative of a turning point because it's driving me fucking crazy because I started out doing comedy in New York 10 years ago, and there are still people operating under the assumption that things are just going to continue on as normal and the entertainment industry is going to be there in 10 years as it's currently constituted. So we should just like avoid the serious topics and continue on. And I don't understand how people don't see this moment as an existential crisis, and they need to kind of elevate the contradictions, meaning like if you are white, if you are privileged, you need to speak out the hardest right now because you're the person that can still theoretically say something.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that aren't that way, the people that are black and brown and their citizenship is even somewhat tenuous, will get abducted in the next 2 to 3 years if this is not actively talked about all the time, you know?
Yeah. And so who I feel like that rant was kind of personal. Who in your life said, Davidson, can you just stop talking about politics? All you do is talk about politics. Like it's your entire personality.
Well, for one thing, my immediate family, and then a lot of people, and this is something I've blocked 2 of my friends, so they'll never see this, but one of them, my lifelong friend who I started comedy with, he said that this was representative of like a grift. And this is like capitalist realism incarnate. Like he can only contextualize what I'm doing through branding, through a branding exercise. Is like, you're doing this so that this can be your corner, you know, within comedy, within entertainment. And I'm like, no.
Your little activism niche.
Right. Exactly. I'm like, no, this is like, you've never ever heard of a person was being like, yeah, I went pro-Palestine and then all of a sudden my career took off. You know, that doesn't you have to basically remove yourself after from the mainstream avenues to success once you start talking about decolonizing or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not the best career move. So yeah, I kind of fundamentally don't understand. And of course, I like studied fascism in college and colonialism, imperialism, etc. And I've always been kind of like on the left wing of things. I mean, I'm way more radical now than I was 10 years ago. But
sure,
I just don't see how people see it. Like,
yeah,
I think that the big difference between like people on the actual left and liberals is they think that like Trump is kind of like a symptom. Like he's the reason why America is the way it is now. So if we just get him out, if we just wait for his term to expire, it's going to fix everything. And then we get lambasted by being like, no, Trump is literally America.
Yeah. No,
with the
it's
mask
like,
off.
that's a good word you use, like symptom. I like Chris Hedges always writes about how he's like just the culmination of everything that was done to deregulate and humiliate the working class, like rob people of their agency. So they're like, all right, fucking take that. You know what I mean? And now Trump is like wielding an enormous amount of power, not paying attention to any constitutional norms. And I don't understand how people can look in that and be like, well, yeah, if we just wait this out for 4 more years, we'll elect Cory Booker and everything will be. And you can already see lib TikTok, lib Twitter, lib Blue Sky being like, how cool is it going to be when Cory Booker is swearing in on the Bible in 2028? I'm like, I think it's more existential than that.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Bannon already like went on a rant. He's like, we have a plan
Right.
for a third term for Trump. And the guy interviewing him, and they talked about this on Breaking Points, was like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, are we talking about insurrection? It's like, no, listen, I've followed through with a lot longer shots than Trump having a third term. So like, this is like a real thing that they're trying to do. And right now there's an active assault on the courts to make sure that federal judges can't form injunctions from across the country to stop what's happening in DC. It's a full-on frontal assault. And people are thinking like this was kind of like what they did in the last Trump administration, where they would try to force things through to see how far it could go, like the Muslim ban, which was absolutely egregious. It eventually got halted, but it was kind of like a systems test. So people are starting to think like this is a systems test. They're going to see how far that they can get, and then they're just going to stop like they did last time. But there's something completely different about this new Trump administration. Remember the turnover, the massive turnover of cabinet ministers and officials within the first White House?
Yep.
I just want to say that this whole Signalgate thing, the Mike Walls National Security Advisor debacle with Pete Hegseth, which was an absolute embarrassment and scandal. It broke some of the Beltway rules in Washington. Like, you don't embarrass your boss. You don't create such a scandal that it affects with the implementation of policy, and you resign. But they're backing Mike Walls. And the Signalgate story even got worse because his office was using Gmail for official communications, like essentially what Hillary did.
That's what we're doing right now, dude. Like that's the level of planning for this show.
Yeah, but also like I just want to make this point and to see what your thoughts were on it. He's not getting kicked out. He's not resigning. They're closing ranks.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that signal to you about this new Trump administration? Because last one, he embarrassed the administration. He would have been out.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the first thing he did, which was, I guess, or maybe his advisors told him to do this, Machiavellian and smart, is get rid of all the like inspector generals, around like the government agencies. Anyone that has any enforcement ability behind any of these agencies is now gone. Right. So it can be a much more autocratic, like this is the way it is because I say so. And I don't know. It really is like this hyper normalization thing where you witness just what would even be the word, like be like imbecilic, right? People that are just so dumb, communicating, like using emojis to talk about bombing the capital of Yemen.
Yeah,
right?
Fist bump, fire, American flag.
Right. And so I think it's a fuck you. I think it's like there is no floor. We're at the Marianas Trench and we're getting our drill and we're going to go further down, like it's basically that's the effect. It's like, okay, you basically have to take my word that this isn't a big deal. And when you do that, I know I can go even further. And honestly, I think it's a pretty effective way to keep the conversation focused on this and not firing 10,000 people at what was it? The Human Services, the Centers for Disease Control.
Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. So that happened. And it was honestly buried because of this story, So it's effective in the way that it's like so egregious, so flamboyant, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh, this can't possibly get any worse. And meanwhile, 10 other things are happening at the same time.
Right. And I just wanted to point out that what we're seeing here, especially with the signal gate, I mean, yes, a bunch of that's kind of like a smoke and mirrors, bread and circuses aspect of like what's going on. And they don't really care. It suits their purpose to have all the hysteria happen over that, to have all the Democrats be like, oh, bombing Yemen, we don't really care about that, but they compromise national security in a group chat. Oopsie. Like
Right.
that's what they're focusing on because they think it's an embarrassment to the administration. But in the episode yesterday, we went through the 14 characteristics of fascism, and like one of those right up there is like cronyism.
Right.
And so his entire cabinet's a bunch of real estate developers, like Mike Waltz is a real estate developer, Steve Witkoff, the envoy to the Middle East, also a real estate developer, all these crony billionaires that he's known for decades. And from Trump's perspective, it could be like, yeah, Mike Waltz is an idiot, but he's our idiot and he's loyal.
Right.
So,
well, let me ask you, like, from your perspective, would like under Obama, under George Bush, would this just be an immediate firing? Like, absolutely, like you're out on your ass, Pete Hegseth. There's a new Secretary of Defense the next week, or don't you think that these people are have a bit of a tribal mentality throughout the administrations? You know what I mean? There would be this like coalesce around each other, you know, like penguins in the Arctic, like turn against the wind, or is this brand new?
Well, it's been a long-standing Washington tradition to like, if you embarrass your boss, you hand in your resignation, and it's fine. Wish you the best of luck. You'll get a cush job at a think tank in the private sector. You know,
right? Yeah,
that's how it's been. So this is new, and a lot of people have been commenting on it. So if they wanted Signalgate to go away, they would have been like, that was a mistake. Mike Waltz has handed in his resignation. Excuse me. We wish him the best of luck. Boom. End of news story. But the Signalgate story is going to be a circus that Dems are going to like really fixate on. And it's very performative. Nothing's going to happen. And in the meantime, I wanted to shift towards like the actual activism aspect of this, because now there is a massive protest nationwide, interstate, Pan-American protest by an organization called Hands Off. So Saturday, April 5th is a national day of protest against the current regime. I'll never, this is what I tweeted about it. I'll never underestimate Americans' political complacency, but I encourage everyone to show up and see what's what. Check out the Hands Off protest online for your local listing. I'll link that in the description as well. They claim to want to build an opposition movement. Maybe you can convince at least one person the Dems ain't it. And so here's the Austin bulletin. You know, I'm out of Austin for the April 5th protest Hands Off movement, where Texas Capitol, 2 p.m. April 5th, etc. This mass mobilization day is our message to the world that we do not consent to the destruction of our government and our economy for the benefit of Trump and his billionaire allies. Agree with that point. Alongside Americans across our country, we're marching, rallying, and protesting to demand a stop to the chaos and build an opposition movement against the looting of our country. Cool, down with that. A core principle behind all Hands Off events is a commitment to non-violent action. We expect all participants to seek to de-escalate any potential confrontation with those who disagree with our values.
I gotta say, there's this really great piece of history that I think a lot of people should look up. The 1968 Melford Act, which happened when, or maybe it's Mulford, M-U-L-F-O-R-D, but it is basically the reason California got stricter gun laws is because the Black Panthers started arming themselves and like patrolling the streets, right? So that's not necessarily violence, but it's the threat of violence, you know, that generally starts a movement in the right direction. These are that commitment to nonviolent action rings like pretty toothless to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Real quick, just for context, the Mulford Act passed in 1967 in California outlawed the open carry of loaded firearms and was a direct response, as you said, to the Black Panther Party's cop watching activities, which included openly carrying guns.
So if this is in Texas, why the fuck wouldn't like this? I mean, I don't know how much we can say on this channel, but why the fuck, if like they have open carry in that, wouldn't you like want to be like, hey, listen, don't fuck with us, you know, we have these guns, you know what I mean?
That is a great point. I don't think anyone at that protest or most people at that protest are going to be carrying guns. You know, Austin's a very liberal city.
Right.
I have guns, but then again, I'm not a Democratic voter.
Right.
So,
and also, it's just like you're basically kneecapping yourself before you get on your horse, and then you shoot it on the back of the head before you even get to the destination. It's like, what is like, it's all symbolic protest then, you know, if there's no
exactly. You basically all you're doing is giving a bunch of cops overtime.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Good job, guys. And I'm not advocating for like, I'm categorically not advocating for violence. All right. I'm just saying the state is completely fine with you saying we're not going to be violent ever. It's a core belief of ours. So you really don't have to worry about anything, you know?
I know. And I mean, I really do think it says something when people have their principles backed by the threat of something possibly happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even when I go to these protests out here in New Jersey or New York, I live like 3 blocks from Columbia. So during the Columbia protest, there were like 4 helicopters circling overhead, you know, a bunch of unarmed 18 to 22-year-olds, right? So the show of force is just overwhelming. And the obvious point it's trying to make is you like step one step out of line and we will crush this like a gnat with a sledgehammer. But I like these sanctioned, what would it be? Permitted protests really seem to just help liberals feel like they're doing something more than
right.
Yeah.
And I want to play a reel by a liberal content creator, smart guy, not a bad dude, but at the end of the video, I'm going to be like, where the fuck have y'all been for the past 2 years? You think there's not going to be any violence at this? I'm just going to play it real quick.
Trump has effectively said that he wants to do martial law a bunch of different times.
It's from the account Good Trouble TT. He's on TikTok and Instagram.
Different ways he's said effectively this. As a result, people are planning to protest on April 5th. Okay, at these protests, far-right weirdos, some of whom are in our government, will install agitators whose only goal it is to turn these protests violent.
Yes.
The minute right-wing mushbrain weirdos see violent left-wing protests, they will have all the justification that they need for their president to tell them that, oops, the military's coming and you should be happy about it. So to reiterate, I'm going to do martial law if only there was a reason to. Oh, here's the reason.
There's a lot to respond to. I'm just going to finish the whole thing because I'm already getting pissed.
Fresh off a video from a potato who is alleging that the left has historically been violent. Despite the overwhelming historical inaccuracy to say that the left is more violent than the right, especially and even still in most recent times, there is some truth to this. And I would like to point out the historical inaccuracy of making a false equivalence between violence against oppression, like Stonewall and the civil rights movement, right? And far-right Christian nationalist activism.
That's true.
I'm going to go protest on April 5th, regardless of whether or not this is still around.
And this is where I start to have a problem.
One of my main focuses on that day is to find and target people trying to stir up violence. If they're on our side, you get the boot too. But if you're not, I'm going to find you, I fucking promise. We will not be the fucking scapegoats that your president uses to further whittle away our fucking democracy. Thanks.
Find him and give him a stern talking to. That's what the liberals are going to do.
Like, hey, you kid. You
put the gun down. Yeah.
No.
I think that betrays a little bit of a lack of historical knowledge, starting with like, I don't know, the Revolutionary War, all the way through John Brown, all the way through the Pullman strikes. Anything that was ever like achieved in America was achieved through violence.
Specifically,
and also,
like property destruction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and it's all formed based on a compromise. The capitalist class are like, all right, we're going to give you this if you stop burning this down, if you stop attacking police officers, if you stop. And the other thing that it does is it generates images of an overwhelming force coming after a very sympathetic group of people that are just fighting for their rights to express or whatever. But it really seems stupid to come completely unarmed, hands behind your back, and just let the nightsticks hit you in the face. I don't know. What do you think?
So this is just kind of like why we learn in school about Gandhi and his resistance to the British Raj, because all he did was fast. And the British Raj was really good at enduring scandal.
Right.
Right. No one cares. But what they don't teach you about is the mutinies aboard British ships of Indian sailors, the violence against British Raj officials, like what we would call like acts of terrorism by like Sikh militants. So that's why we learn about Gandhi in school, not
also,
about that.
A bankrupted empire that had just fought World War II and was scrambling, to they didn't have, I guess, the plunder anymore to keep supply chains going across 3,000 to 5,000 miles anymore, or 9,000 miles.
No, and this was kind of a side note. I didn't mean to get into the history of the British Raj, but also if they lost India and they didn't just give it up, it would cause other revolts throughout their entire colonial empire as well.
Right.
So,
right.
Anyways, I just want to say, when I hear stuff like "you guys better not be nonviolent," and if I catch you, oh boy, you better watch out, Sonny. Dude, where the fuck have these guys been? Because I've been pepper sprayed 5 times over the past 2 years. I've been arrested in the Senate. I've watched kids get trampled by fucking horse cops here in Texas during the UT protests. It's going to get violent, or at least it might. They think it's going to come from agitators. Motherfucker, the cops don't need an excuse to open up with nightsticks.
Yeah, a lot of these guys got these positions because they wanted to enact violence, right?
Yeah.
With overwhelming force. I remember during the Black Lives Matter protests, the guns would come out very easily. The pepper spray would come out very easily. It just required a movement of somebody. Somebody could accelerate, start sprinting, and that's all the excuse they need to start wailing on people. And there's this great joke by Sarah Silverman, Zionist, unfortunately, but when she gets pulled over by the cops, he's like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And she's like, "Because you got all C's in high school." It's these are not brilliant people that are doing this for any noble cause. A lot of them are out there to enact kind of a fantasy of violence against people, and this is a group of people that are advocating for a cause that the state doesn't like. So the situation is, and then you have a lot of people who aren't that interested in a better world or idealism. They want to swing their batons,
Yeah. And it's these kind of people, I think, in thinkers like Michael Parenti and stuff, writes about how they're actually kind of a bigger threat to any sort of progressive movement than the fascists themselves, because they block access to political power. They're the ones that are okay, we will not do anything to actually resist what's going on. We're going to go protest in our pink hats once to be I tried, what are we going to do? And I'll remember, and I'll remind people that during Trump's inauguration, they were holding signs like "This is not normal." It's it is normal. If you look at the history of fascism, this is totally normal, because you are wearing pink hats and in the Senate, while liberal politicians in Germany were wearing purple to protest the Nazi takeover. So
that's funny, yeah. And there's it's so fast that history judges at this point. That pink hat protest, people that participated in it are already embarrassed. You know what I mean? It's such performative activism. It's those paddles. Remember when Trump gave his first speech, being
war criminal.
Right. It looked like some bullshit auction, and the internet allows for immediate judgment and analysis of these events. And it's very clear to see what's going to stand out. Like the image of that, I think it was either a Black or Native American activist on horseback at Standing Rock, like facing down the ultra military. It's like, all right, there's a fucking image. You know what I mean? That's something people can rally around. Loose fitting pussy hats is just going to be embarrassing even like a couple years later. So it's tough though. Like, how do you reconcile that? Because I feel like you have to do something, which is why politics is my entire personality. Is I talk about it, I do activism, but it really does feel like until we get more people on our side, there is just going to be this like kind of, that liberal content creator is going to reign supreme. That's going to be the ideology. It just feels like the economy has to completely crater before people can, I don't know.
Well, people are still like not desperate enough, or at least these folks aren't, because
not at all.
The whole issue with like liberal resistance to fascism historically is they shift right and they shift right and they keep shifting right in order to maintain their comfort and their privilege and their safety.
Yes.
While actively demonizing actual left-wing people who are like, hey guys, let's not be Nazis. Can we not do
please?
That? It's like, no, but like national security, like they get real war hawkish real quick. They start talking about like Russia, and as someone who grew up amongst like East Coast like liberals and like boarding school and stuff, like I feel like the hawkishness of the Democratic Party is because they don't want to be called weak. So like they also have a fixation with like national security and stuff. And anyways, two wings of the same bird. But I wanted to come back to this point about the performative nature of it and how it's kind of like a sideshow to basically cow people into thinking like, okay, because Cory Booker filibustered, didn't block any bills, didn't do anything, that they have a party that's going to fight for them. And let me just pull up this video clip of that. Let me see. Sorry. Here we go.
With the Senator.
This is about Senator Booker's breaks record for longest Senate speech in history.
We're going to watch for a question.
Yeah, no. And then Chuck Schumer, who everybody hates right now because he just folded to the Republican Party and the Republican agenda a couple weeks ago. Yeah. He asked Senator Booker a question at the very end of his speech.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Presidential run. Wow, I didn't see this. Nothing changed. Nothing changed.
Literally nothing changed.
They're going to come back in 2 days and just enact whatever they were going to do anyway. Like,
well, it was where Chuck Schumer was. I think he was protesting in front of the Department of the Treasury or something, and he's like, "We won't stop. We will resist. We will win." And then he approves the fiscal package that the Republicans were putting through.
There are all these laws here that have actual, like, there are these things that are being done that hurt consumers more than anything else, which is predatory financial practices. Like, there's these two things that I've been really interested in recently. One is getting rid of a $5 cap on overdraft fees from your bank, right? Like, that passed, sailed through. If the Democrats were concerned with populist messaging, that would be an incredibly effective bill to attack, right? It'd be like, look, they fucking hate you. They're trying to like take all your money and like wreck the working class. And then other thing that's happening right now that has been big, that should like another just layup for any populist messaging among the Democrats, and which tells you why like they're completely bought off by Wall Street, is like you can now finance a burrito on Seamless, right? You can pay for, takeout in installments. And this is just so predatory. And it's so like, because it's very difficult to get the American public to care that much about I don't know, foreign policy, like bombing Sana'a, Yemen. You know what I mean? Like, yes, that fucking sucks. And like me and you and people that probably watch this show really care about that stuff. But Joe Schmo voter would really come over to your side if you're like, no, we're going after, like, banks cannot do this predatory shit to you anymore. But because Democrats acquiesce to that, these performative pieces that Cory Booker does just ring is so, and the way he stood there and just accepted that applause, like he's fucking Malcolm X, was like really disgusting, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's the whole party for you, you know. People are excited about Bernie and AOC maybe running on a joint ticket, like with Bernie as VP. It's like, ugh, dude, whatever.
Bernie's 83. Okay,
yeah.
Like that's not happening.
Yeah, and AOC's controlled opposition for the Democratic
is.
National Committee. So yeah, they really celebrated that, but like all of these politicians basically serve the whole same system. And I just want to hear some commentary for friend of the show, I Am Blakely, about this.
Too hard on people that are excited about the fact that Cory Booker filibustered for over 24 hours and broke the record, because I understand that people are genuinely desperate for Democrats to do something, anything. But what I can't do is be excited with you. Like, people are trying to make this happen, and I'm not. The only even slightly cool thing about this story to me is that he broke the record of a segregationist racist. That's pretty cool. Literally, the record before this was a guy who filibustered all night because he was so racist he didn't want the Civil Rights Act to pass. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool that a black guy broke the record. Okay, that's where the compliments end. That's where the good parts about this story end. Now I'm fixing to trash the rest of it. First of all, typical Democrat, the second it was over, they're sending me fundraising fucking text messages and emails trying to get money from me. I'm not giving you bitches any money. You've done nothing to earn money.
She posts the actual text message she got from the DNC. Blakely, it's Cory Booker. I just walked off the Senate floor. I may be tired and a little hoarse, but as I said again and again, this is a moment where we cannot afford to be silent. We must speak up. I am filled with hope. My team just told me that tens of thousands of you have voiced your support for my remarks on the Senate floor. Dude, this is just a fundraising
It's
grip.
a cash grab. He's going to get so much money from this too. Like, that's what makes you even more cynical, is it's totally going to work. Because like these inside the Beltline people in like the nicer neighborhoods of New York are going to flood his coffers because they're like, finally, someone stood up. And that's the level of activism that they're comfortable with, right? They don't want any buildings on fire or anybody in the street. They want Cory Booker, I don't know, reading.
Making him feel good.
Right.
You blew over $1 billion in the last election to have your asses handed to you by the Republicans. Don't ask me for money. You should be embarrassed. Second of all, what was he filibustering? What? Nothing. Vibes? Like, he just was like talking about how Donald Trump is a threat. He wasn't actually filibustering anything specific or a bill. In fact, the Democrats did the most Democrat thing. As soon as this was over, they all gave unanimous consent to pass through an unqualified Trump nominee. That pretty much sums it up. And lastly, I'm not going to praise you. You're not going to get any praise when you said nothing about Mahmoud Khalil.
That's true. In fact, he spoke for hours.
He had the Israeli pen right here.
And he praised the Abraham Accords also, which was a Trump initiative to normalize Bahrain, the UAE, with Israel. And now he wants an expanded Abraham Accords too, which is
negotiated by Jared Kushner, who wants to turn Gaza into the Riviera, right? So it's really stupid.
Yeah, so I guess we're kind of like stuck with people who won't do anything. And the real thing, the thing that's difficult and challenging about all of this is like literally when it comes to activism and direct action and protest to the government, the more people there are, like the safer everybody is.
Right.
So I just don't see these protests really doing anything. I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to show up to see what's what. Maybe I can like convince some people, but I'm going to be rolling with like Austin for Palestine too. So I think we're going to get a lot of hate at these protests. Could be like, you did this.
Right. No, that was I made a video about this.
You're why we're here.
Right. The other day is like, and this is already starting to happen, is people are blaming people like me and you for detracting from Kamala support. being like, oh, you were saying both of these people are wings of the same bird. So now we have Trump and we're dealing with this. And it's like, wow, like really not seeing the trees through the forest. You really can't put two and two together that like genocide is bad. And that's what we were saying. And it was a Democrat doing it. And now it's Republican doing it. And it does suck that we're losing constitutional rights at a bigger clip than we were, but it was going to happen anyway, because fascism was marching on no matter which party was in power.
Right. And yeah, and I just recall all the state violence that I've experienced in the past year and a half has been from Democrat policies.
Right.
Wasn't it? I'm always up in New York, and wasn't Kathy Hochul, the mayor or the governor of New York? She was the one who's like, you know what we need in the subways? National Guard infantry.
700 people. And that's the thing. That's what the mayoral race is up here. That's what every Democratic race is. It's like people feel unsafe because theft is going up, because everything is getting more expensive. Schools are being defunded. So there's more people on the streets. There's no after school programs.
We need more cops then.
Right. Exactly. So it's always a reaction to the cuts, right? And the reaction to what the cuts caused. So, which is just more feral youth, more like people out there like breaking bottles and shit like that. And it's like, but it's very difficult because people don't have this cause and effect relationship in their mind. So they feel scared. So they're willing to give up their rights. And this just like continues and continues. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, here's Trump. Here's the final boss of our loss of rights and like dignity, I guess. And now people, it just feels too late in the game to operate within the system anymore. And we run up against these things because me and you were talking about this, and the answer on both of our lips that we can't actually.
We're not going to say it.
Yeah. But, the answer is there. It's just you can't say it. That's
at least not yet. So
at least not yet. Not yet. Yeah. I do want to continue to be able to, I don't know, not be in prison. So that would be, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be more willing to entertain being a political prisoner if other people were.
I know.
That's the problem. There's just not enough people.
There's no critical mass. There's just enough. Did you see that? There's this great quote that somebody put out that was like, Marx never envisioned that poor people would be able to afford ice cream or be able to eat ice cream. Like, it's so telling, the level of creature comfort in society is greater now. So you can kind of through credit card debt and little treats, I guess, make life bearable enough to not pick up a rock and throw it, Right. And I just don't know when that is going to shift.
I'm kind of despondent about it shifting. I'm not really sure. I think it's really telling that the three preeminent scholars of fascism have left their universities and moved to Canada. So that's kind of like a canary in the coal mine moment. Because I think they honestly believe that we've passed the event horizon straight into the black hole, and there's no way to escape the gravity of it. So, and I don't want to be too gloomy, but let's talk about what do you do? What are you going to do?
Yeah. So what I do take, I guess, heed or I take solace in is the fact that we do have a generation of people that have never known hope, millennials. There was about 10 years there before we saw 9/11,
we had a few good years between the release of The Mummy and 9/11, and then everything went to shit.
So their minds are a little bit more ripe for these more what would be considered radical ideologies under the current political system, and they are obviously prone to radicalism because they'll go towards things like Andrew Tate. You know what I mean? They are willing to entertain these very violent, and so if you can transmute that energy into something positive and be like, no, there are, like, I always talk about this, like racist xenophobes, there is a group of people you can hate with that level of vitriol. They're called billionaires. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
fucking take that like really raw anger that you feel and direct it at the people that are actually causing it, right? Because there is this simmering hatred in society. And I think and that's why I believe what I'm doing is important, what you're doing is important, not to fucking suck our dicks, but it's like, if you can do it in a way that's like not alienating, more inclusive, I guess, then I think people do have the capability to, if they're young, I really don't think like Gen X boomers are going to like, no, they're not coming around to this, but but like young people, Gen Z, are desperately searching for something right now. Yeah. And what gives me hope is that we can be like, no, you can still be like cool and not cringe or anything like that, whatever you're worried about, and you can learn about like working class heroes and like try and fight up for something that's bigger than you.
Yeah, and like there's so much like incel misogyny and all these like influencers that are like radicalizing people into the wrong politics. I just want to be like, look, don't listen to Andrew Tate. All right. Guys who actually care about social issues actually get laid. So
right, exactly.
Try doing that, buddy.
I know. It's like, you know what's sexier than hating women? Advocating for them. You know?
Yeah. Or also like giving a shit about fighting cops.
Right, exactly. Like not being afraid. And it's weird because it's such a convoluted, like you have to do all these logical leaps to like put the Punisher logo on and also like support your local police union, you know?
Yeah. So. It's like I love two things: outlaw country and the law.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's like, wait, what? So if you can like, and it sucks, man, which is why the internet is cool, because I would never want to be around these people. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like Kyle Kalinske. I like him a lot. He talks a lot about this. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to get a beer with you, but I do want you to have health care. You know, like I care about you in this like overarching way, not in this like person to person way. Like I want a better world that you can exist in. But I don't know, man. People are like, and then some days I get so bummed out because people are so fundamentally selfish. Like it's like a mouse mentality. Like I'm just going to hit the cocaine until I die type thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. What gives you hope? That's what gives me hope is that the youth are not fully decided yet.
Well, I think we're looking at a systemic crash, like a cascade failure of like a lot of things. I think a lot of MAGA cultists will support, whatever Trump does. And I was interviewing Butch Ware, who's now running for governor of California.
We follow each other.
So he was talking about like, hey, I'll never go broke betting against white supremacy. If you make them scared of like a foreign other, and this is a tenet of fascism, really, they will vote to evict themselves, bankrupt themselves, imprison themselves, and they will. And
as long as they can be superior on the yard.
That's exactly what's happening. So I do have a lot of success talking to like the anti-authoritarian right, like the militia guys, constitutionalists, some more like active libertarians. Of course, I don't agree with their slavish adherence to capitalism, but at least they're like tyranny's bad, and I'm like, cool,
right? Like, so Elon's bad, right? Like you can make the like it's tough,
so
man.
I guess I don't have too much, but also like it's just not my personality to be like to shut up. Also, so I guess it is my entire personality now. It's like what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, man. But it's so lonely because it's like you're actively aware that it's going in the wrong direction. And I often think about the people that have done this their whole lives. Like Noam Chomsky or Jane Goodall or somebody like that that's always just trying to be like, yo, look, we're all connected. And like at the tail end of their life, they've seen that people have retreated into the like most puny versions of themselves imaginable. And it just makes you like kind of sad, but also like, fuck, man, you know, is this worth it to do? But then I think like, what the fuck else would I be doing? You know, there's nothing like, otherwise I would just be, I think, even more depressed because I'd be like, all right, well, I'm not even trying, you know?
I'm also like not capable of becoming a Nazi. So it's just like, well, you know, I can't really lean into that. So I guess I'm stuck with this.
Yeah. It's, there's nothing like if it comes down to it, if like we really are in the Fourth Reich, you know, you can eat a bullet. You can, you know what I mean? Like it's,
I mean, I don't want to like leave the country. Like this is where I'm from. So I guess I'm just
same,
gonna have to
dude.
stay.
I had you said you were in, cause when we were trying to like coordinate this, I was in Thailand doing comedy over there. And you said you were in India before.
I lived in India for a while, Goa and Mumbai, and then I moved back a couple years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that place has a pretty rigorous caste system from what I understand as well, you know, and they have like all signs of social collapse. So, and then Bangkok was like so fucking polluted that there were days that it literally hurt to be outside. So, and then if America falls, I really think like people are like, oh, I'll move to Europe. It's like, no. Europe is
Europe's coming down with us. Okay?
Right after. Like it's going to be like 1, 2, you know?
Actually,
like
Europe might be first for all we know because they're not doing too hot. They're trying to, you know, militarize again, what they don't have the money for. But I guess the war machine must be fed. Yeah. And so they have a massive energy crisis. They're doing their own right wing, like union busting. Even the centrist parties in like Germany and France are like pretty right wing. And and of course, the UK is doing a massive crackdown. They don't have free speech protection, so it's even worse over there. Yeah. So I guess Ireland could be.
That's where I would go. Can you imagine just like every leftist in America shows up in Ireland? You know, there'd be some good conversations at the bars for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, I wouldn't feel like too badly. There is a branch of the Stoker family that is Irish, the Bram Stoker side. But we don't talk about the Celtic bloodline.
Right.
Because my elitist Anglo-Saxon assholes.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I'm not really sure. We would like your guys' comments and engagement. I just kind of wanted to like talk about like what else you do now that politics is your entire personality. Like, do you hobbies anymore? Is there like any sort of like self-care stuff? Like, or just like you go to the bar and like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to send it. Like,
yeah, dude, I've been getting into like Magic the Gathering and trying to learn Spanish. You know what I mean? Just like very basic shit. That's like, you know what I mean? But outside of that, it's pretty much, this is all and then through the algorithms, you know, like this is all I get fed anymore too. You know what I mean? You go on your phone.
I get right wing people doing crazy stuff, Dems folding to it, atrocities throughout West Asia, and cat memes.
There you go.
Yeah.
I get dog, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where we're at. What are you doing now? We're just gonna keep putting one foot in front of the other. So what do you got going now in your future in terms of, because I know you are a very involved activist. So
yeah, man. So I'm gonna continue to organize for Mahmoud Khalil. I'll be doing a lot with Columbia University. I live so close to them. So I'll be doing some stuff with them. I know I mean, like this maybe goes against what we've been talking about, but I'm going to try and help this guy, Zoran Mamadi, get elected here in New York. He is a socialist politician. Like so he is, he's trying to make the bus for, it's so, you just do it because it's like, even if you don't, even if that doesn't happen, it's going to put you around people that are plugged in and want a better world. And that's going to make you feel better, you know? And it'll make you like able to get out there and continue to effectuate change. And yeah, I'm going to continue to like talk to people that reach out to me that feel kind of lost about what to do next. You know, there's a lot of like young people out there that are like, yo, what the fuck, man? And my advice is always this: get the fuck out of your hometown and find people that are that give a shit, you know? Like that's kind of the two pieces of advice I always have.
Yeah, I mean, building alternative structures outside of the state is going to also be crucial.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. You want to talk about like being on the fucking grid? I'm literally in Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like I'm the most reliant on the system.
Yeah.
So it's tough. What about you, man? What are you doing?
I just don't like to feel helpless. So what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do now is show up to like not just Palestine stuff, but also like Stop Cop City, Welwani Defense Society, which is like environmentalists. Because like this is the problem I have with like the Palestine activists. It's like you guys don't show up to anything else. Like that's what you got to do. What?
Oh, dude, yeah, I gotta say this. This is something that I think a lot of people could do. This is what I've been doing here in New York. Show up to these Tesla dealership protests. If you want to see something that actually affects, like if you want to watch Tesla stock go down, that is a really edifying experience. Watching like just humiliating a rich guy, you know, and making him regret the fact that he meddled in our politics is. And then like if you go to those things, you can see that no one's going to come by a Tesla that day. That's for damn sure. You know what I mean? If they have a bunch of people outside screaming, you know?
Yeah, with Musk like sticking a Sig Heil as well. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, what I'm trying to do is I'm in Austin. I want to travel to Houston and Dallas every like once a month. To build like cross interstate solidarity with other movements, Cop City stuff. As I mentioned, environmentalist stuff. I mean, I'm anchored in the anti-war veteran circles.
Yeah.
And that's how I gravitated towards the Palestine issue. I mean, I've always been aware of it, but intersectionality is like the name of the game. So
Definitely.
that's why I'm showing up to the April 5th protest. To try to like recruit people, to see what the lay of the land is, to see is like, hey, is this something that's going to happen again? Is this viable? So we're just figuring it out in the kind of figuring it out phase. So,
well, I would like to point out that protest movements always kick off way harder in the summer, in the warmer months. Like if you remember, BLM roiled in 2020. You know, I think we're in for an insane summer, especially as I think it's such a miscalculation on the Trump administration's part to furlough and fire all of these highly educated, very knowledgeable people from the government, you know, and give them a shitty labor market to enter into. Like, what are these people going to do? They're going to get out and fucking activate, you know? So he's kind of unleashing a force that is going to come back to bite him. I don't feel hopeless. I kind of do, but I feel like I feel like there's definitely we're not going to go out without a fight. Maybe I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, we're and I don't think we're there yet. I mean, this is probably going to progress more rapidly than we thought, but I wanted to do this episode because, just wanted to say like, hey, if you feel like it's going downhill with no brakes, you're not alone, and also keep going.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I encourage anybody that's young to not, no one's watching this that's racist. So I should not, but I'm just saying like, but like there are other ways to express anger and discontent, you know, like, and it's at the oligarchy.
Yeah. And I'll just end with this. And I get, in Twitter fights with people on the right talking about like, look at these leftist extremists destroying private property. I was like, oh yeah, Tesla manufacturing plants are actually private property, but not in the way you think. But just name me one right or freedom, even as small as the 5-day work week, that you have that hasn't been achieved through property destruction.
Right.
Like, no one's saying like you should loot mom and pop shops or like kill anybody, but like that was like a core tenement of like even women's suffrage. Like
Buildings had to burn down to give workplace safety, you know, like it's all been property destruction.
Yeah. So look, when you meet these people at the protests, I encourage everyone to go in America to go to this April 5th thing. Just in your own sphere of influence, just state the facts, and that is the fact. No one's going to listen to you if you go and be like, no, we got to get violent. It's just like, let's talk about the history of this, guys. Your protest is not going to achieve anything. So I guess that's kind of like my call to action. Everybody show up April 5th. And
Definitely do it.
See what's up. And see if there's something you can work with. So yeah, I think this was kind of our social episode here. We're kind of at the end of our time and the end of the hour. I'll put all of Davidson's socials, and he has a lot of great articles that he writes about this stuff on Substack. Is there anything else you'd like to take us out with?
Nah, man. I hope you come up to New York, man. We can grab some drinks and talk more.
Yeah, I think maybe late May.
Sweet.
So
I'll be around.
I'll let you know. Yeah, I usually stay in like Ridgewood in Brooklyn because that's where all the punk and metal spots are.
Hell yeah, man.
That's kind of my scene. But all I have to do is take the L and then go up.
Come on up.
Morningside
Yeah.
Heights. Yeah,
Awesome,
I mean, I went to Columbia, so I know your neighborhood. And
Oh, you did? Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Dropped out. Jokes on them.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So, anyway,
You didn't know you were being an activist when you dropped out, but you were. Yeah.
You know, it wasn't because of that, but I can say I was like, I couldn't deal with like this institution elitist.
Yeah.
I had a problem with Columbia University being basically a real estate scheme.
Yes. Largest property owner in New York. People don't know that.
But I can retroactively make my history about that. It wasn't.
Oh, absolutely.
So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. We will be back tomorrow with Asal Rad, a PhD in Middle Eastern Studies. She wrote the book State of Resistance about the Iranian government, and we're going to be talking about the nuclear deal and what the hell Trump is doing and expects to happen and what the Iranian government's response will be. Also, the internal politics of that government. So if you're into that, check us out tomorrow. That'll be Thursday evening. And thank you, Davidson, so much for coming on, and we will see you next time.